I'm Oliver Bruce, dyslexic and dyspraxic serial entrepreneur with little more than one GCSE, but none of that matters. And that is exactly why I started this podcast. I've built multi-million pound businesses from just an idea, and I've gone into markets that I've got no right to be in. It's not always plain sailing, and what you see on social media is often a fraction of the reality. I somehow wanted to tell the candid truth, the story around startup and scale-up life, and just how important mental agility and strength is in this largely idealistic and fake world. I hope you enjoy my podcast and can take some solace and some learnings from the unspoken reality and subjectivity of the term success. This is Success is in the Mind, and thank you so much for watching. You are genuinely changing people's perception of food.
I tend to be quite relentless, and it is out of character to stop.
You sent a burger and chips 112,000 feet into the sky.
Going up against organisations like Unilever, Nestle and Corn, and so the risk is there in the sense that you are coming to a gunfight with like a tiny penknife.
It sounds like Squid Games. So, Andy, this is your business, but what is this?
So this is a brand of plant-based meat alternatives, and we focus on the hyper-realism of animal products in our plant-based food. So the idea is you have our sausages or our plant-based bacon, plant-based chicken, and you don't know that it's plant-based. You can't tell the difference. We sell the products in retail, in supermarket chains. We also sell in food service, so restaurant chains as well.
And you've always been an entrepreneur, haven't you? Back when you were a kid, you went to boarding school, your parents sent you off there, but you've always had a little entrepreneurial flair. How did you get into it?
Yeah, I've been a founder since I was 21, and from the start, I guess I would say I came from highly privileged background, and so I think the pressure's on when you come from that sort of background, and you want to make sure that you make the most of it and don't waste opportunities and leg ups basically. But also I think be super mindful of how like ridiculously unfair it is as well. Yeah, I went to boarding school.
You enjoy it? You enjoy boarding school?
I hated the first couple of years, and like any kind of child sent away from home, I missed home. And then I kind of grew into it when I found some friends, and just kind of ended up having a lot of fun in the last couple of years. But yeah, it's quite a weird place for a 13-year-old to find.
You were there at 13?
Yeah.
Similarly, I went to boarding school at 13. I loathed it. I hated boarding school for pretty much my whole time. I mean, what allowed you to get through it? How did you mentally cope with that when you were first sent away from home?
Well, firstly, have to probably flag that it's a huge opportunity. So like I don't want to seem like woe is me, but in terms of getting to grips with the sort of homesickness and the loneliness aspect, I think it was just that I started to let loose a bit more with sense of humor and being a bit more vocal, and I suppose I learned over those years to make the most of a vaguely quick wit that I can have, and that ends up making you feel more comfortable because you get validation, people laughing and people being your friend, and then I ended up slightly less unpopular by the time I left, and so that was kind of a happier place.
Why did you end up less popular? Because you were the one taking the mick out of others.
Less unpopular, yeah.
Less unpopular.
More popular was
more popular
was what I was going for.
So what did your parents do then, Andy? What did they do to allow you to go to boarding school?
So my dad, he didn't. He stopped working quite young, but not necessarily for the normal reasons of like making tons of money. But he was in the property industry basically, and then my mum owned a jewelry shop, when she made rings and all sorts of jewelry basically.
Oh wow!
Just a small sort of SME.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what they did. I wasn't too close to either of their careers, if I'm honest. I didn't take too much of an interest when I was growing up. Hence kind of going off. I actually elected to go off to boarding school when I was 13.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, when you were at boarding school, were you the typical kind of student that was buying and selling things from the tuck shop, or did you kind of just go through the motions of academia and then eventually go to university?
Yeah, I was always, whether at school or university, quite a poor student, to be honest, and took direction very badly, was fairly sort of insolent and badly behaved, and didn't. I was the classic, like, has potential, isn't fulfilling any of it.
Yeah.
School report type thing. And then by the time I got to university, I then, my sort of founder entrepreneurial type of side came out, and I realized sort of pretty much first year, or if not even before uni, I wanted to be a founder as my career. And so that led to an even steeper decline in the commitment of like my academic studies, because I knew that where I was going, I didn't need a degree. And even if I failed, I would just try again, because I was completely committed from the age of about 18, 17 to being a founder, basically.
So, I mean, because not a lot of people know they want to be a founder. A lot of people know they want to do something, start a business, make a difference. But to go, all right, today I'm going to found something. What did you, because you went into the world of photography, essentially, when you were at university.
Yeah, I was a photographer. I worked for a sort of clubbing company, and which was quite incongruous, because I was and I'm not cool, but it was like what cool people did, I think, is go and work for a clubbing company. And I basically used to take photos in clubs for their club nights, and hand out cards.
Business cards, or
the cards for the company, because back then it wasn't very kind of digital, you know, QR codes or anything. So I'd hand out the card and say, go to this website and you can buy your picture. And it was like half really annoying and tedious for people, and then also half people just want to be vain and see themselves on these pictures, so they all went. So it was great, because I got to basically go clubbing, but without really going clubbing. So like I didn't pay, buy drinks, and I didn't like queue and stuff. Like it's sort of people watch. It was quite fun.
That is interesting. You got paid to obviously go there, but did you take commission from handing out the cards, and every photo you took a percentage, or how did that work from an entrepreneurial standpoint?
Oh, that was very un-entrepreneurial. I just got paid a really low wage.
But you saved by not drinking.
Yeah, exactly. I just did it because I enjoyed it, and because I wanted some pocket money for holidays and stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, I did quite a lot of it actually for basically whenever I wasn't at school or uni, I was doing it. So I did it a lot over the years. And then my first kind of I suppose entrepreneurial move was at university. I co-created with a couple of mates something we called cash throw events.
Cash throw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very vulgar.
What was that about?
So we would organise big club nights at a club called Ocean in Nottingham, where I went to university. And anyone that knows Nottingham University knows Ocean. And
still there, is it?
It's still there, I believe.
It's one of those ones.
It's the kind of place where you have a great time, but your shoes get stuck to the floor when you walk.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, you leave them behind as you move. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and basically what we did is we would sell tickets to the events, and we would the whole premise would be that we're going to throw $1,000 onto the dance floor.
Right.
So we had balloons full of money. And like hundreds of balloons, or whatever, how many balloons, and we would go like 3, 2, 1 and drop the balloons onto the crowd.
Yes.
They'd all fight for it, and like often injuries.
It sounds like Squid Games.
Yeah, it was like very early tertiary education based Squid Games.
Yeah. I mean, how did you make money from that? I mean, you're chucking it around.
Well, because the ticket sales would generate, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 grand of revenue, and the cash throw would be $1,000, and so you'd have a couple of costs with the event and stuff. But
so you must have been incredibly wealthy at university if you were making that kind of money. I mean, you obviously had the venue costs and such like, but
yeah, I mean, we weren't making a huge amount. We would wash its space.
Yeah.
But like by the time our 3 co-creators got paid, and then we had people selling tickets as well, so we had this kind of hierarchy. It was an extremely like poorly run business.
Yeah.
But
your first foray, nevertheless, into
that's where it started for me.
Business.
Definitely. And I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
I got I don't like clubbing, or frankly, like I'm not that into partying generally, but I can't tell you, I still remember the rush when the thing you've created Even that silly little thing, like it was just so fun seeing everyone who'd bought tickets and was enjoying it, and it was your gig, and it was great.
Well, you must get a massive rush from this, because this has just exploded over the last couple of years, and we'll kind of get onto it later. But you guys are sort of really, really scaling hard now. But going back to university and your first sort of foray into business, you obviously had that kind of cash throw business that you founded, but you also founded Recruitment Squared,
Yeah,
which was actually a proper business,
yeah.
which made money, which you sold.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that your first official, well-registered and well-managed company?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I tried a couple of times before. So at university, this is really my like non-claim to fame, my
Okay.
non-claim to non-fame.
Non-claim to non-fame yet.
I came up with an idea at university called Equity Fish, and this was back in 2000 and I don't know 7ish.
Right.
And I got really into it. Like I called the FSA, which is now the FCA, many times, had meetings with them. Basically, the idea was Crowdcube, but
Okay.
I thought of it before it was a thing, kind of thing.
Before it was Crowdcube.
Not that I deserve any credit, because I didn't end up like delivering on what is now Crowdcube. They did. So all credit to Crowdcube for making it happen. But I did have that idea. I did pursue it, and I was outgunned by the legal challenges.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I once got the chance to briefly meet one of the founders of Crowdcube,
Uh-huh.
and I said I did think of an idea like this at university, and I really got buried by the legal headache. How was it? And he basically looked at me with the eyes of somebody that's seen some stuff,
Yeah.
and was like, yeah, it's been a lot. So he kind of validated my
Yeah.
decision to not pursue it, because even though he's done very well and they've done well, clearly it was just a nightmare. So anyway, I tried that, didn't succeed, got outgunned by the legal system. And then I also tried a couple of other things. I wanted to do advertising on the handles of escalators.
What, as in the moving ones?
Yeah, so the ones in tube
Okay.
stations
Yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah.
and shopping centers. So I wanted to basically, I'd seen in Asia these adverts on the handles of the like long strips.
Sure.
I thought that was really cool, and it hadn't really been in the UK, so
No, it still isn't really, is it?
not really, no,
No.
never really took off. And so I thought I wanted to try and do that for a bit. Sort of didn't really go anywhere with that. So by the time I was ready to leave uni, I took a job offer from somebody I knew who was starting a drinks business.
Okay.
So it was called West 11 Cocktails. It's basically like ready to drink cocktails in bottles. And I was the first official employee, maybe.
Yeah.
They had a lot of consultants, but who were not like me. They were serious people who had like lots of experience. But I did that for 9 months.
Yes.
And then I decided I wanted to start my own company when I was 21.
And in terms of when you kind of came up with these two ideas that were kind of good ideas but didn't really go anywhere, what made you stop and go, actually, no, I'm not going to pursue it. I'm not going to put money into it. I'm not going to waste my life trying to make branding on an escalator work. I'm going to move into something else? Because that in and of itself is hard.
Yeah, really fair question, because I tend to be quite relentless, and it is out of character to stop. And so two different reasons. The first, Equity Fish,
Because I
was
do like that name.
and that was just purely, don't be delusional. I'm speaking to myself here. Don't be delusional. You are not well equipped enough to make this happen from a legal regulatory standpoint. Basically, I lacked even the most basic business skills. I didn't know about them, but I couldn't even write an email properly and say the right things at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. Okay. Are you dyslexic, dyspraxic, Asperger? Have you got any?
I more mean like, you know how it's sort of conventional to put best regards or,
Yes.
Many thanks. I didn't even know what to put there,
No.
like
Cheers, mate. Yeah.
something like that probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I just needed some experience.
But you learn that over time. On a business course like you did, you don't technically or necessarily learn how to do that. You learn about the numbers and you learn about how to structure, but I suppose you don't learn about the ideation necessarily.
I didn't learn what I was supposed to learn at uni, to be honest. I went to I think 3 lectures in 3 years, to be honest. Not an example I wish to set for others.
No.
But I was a very uncommitted student.
Why didn't you just drop out, Andy?
It might sound a bit stupid, but I basically, my parents paid for a private education at great expense to them, and they really wanted me to go to university and see it through. So even though obviously didn't deliver with
Yeah.
flying colours to what they. I did feel that I owed it to them for paying for my previous education to finish university, basically.
Okay, so you almost had an element of guilt that you wanted to repay them and show them that actually their investment was a good one.
More the former than that. It felt obligated. You know,
Obligated.
felt that sense of obligation. I thought it would be a very petulant, spoiled thing to do, to accept such a prestigious, expensive education and then just defy the quite fair ask that's you know, succeeded in.
But there's no denying that entrepreneurs are always slightly wired in a different way, whether they sit through lectures or they don't sit through lectures. You know, there's multiple different things that you can argue there. But to actually build a business, multiple businesses that fail, and then a business that works, sell the business, and then go into other businesses and scale them like you've done, is difficult, takes balls. Talk to me about the Recruitment Squared business that you literally started with 500 quid and then sold in 2012. What did that look like?
Yeah, so the process of deciding what to do after I left the cocktail company was limited to finding ideas that required next to no money to start, because I didn't have any money and I suspected I would find it very difficult to raise any money.
Yeah.
Access to capital subsequently got much, much better.
Yeah.
But really, for people that green, you know, it's very difficult to raise money, I think, back then. And so I narrowed it down to basically like agency-based ideas, because I mean, you'll know with an agency, you don't need like £1 million to start an agency. Really, you can hustle your way through. So
it's people's time you're selling.
Yeah, exactly. So I had done some work experience for a recruitment company when I was like 18, and so I vaguely got, you know, a handle on what it involved.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd just give it a crack, because I was so preoccupied and desperate to start my own business that the idea was almost secondary.
Yeah.
And so I basically, it was quite literally £500. I spent, I think, £200-300 on an office payment for a month, and then I just used the rest for job ads on Gumtree. And I came up with a premise that was basically, it's quite unfashionable now, but it was try before you hire. So I wanted to provide internships which led to jobs, and you didn't pay any placement fee to us for the intern. You only paid if you decided to hire the intern, basically.
Right. A difficult business model.
Yeah. Not particularly scalable, which I subsequently learned.
Yeah.
So, but quite nice from a client side. You know, they quite liked it.
Of course it is. I mean, yeah, you're basically giving them talent for free, and if they don't like it, taking it back.
But one interesting thing is, actually, I didn't experience pretty much anyone taking the mickey out of it.
Really?
You'd have thought on paper that you'd have lots of clients that would just like rinse it and just get a churn of interns. I never found that. I actually found that all employers that I dealt with were quite good-natured and had integrity when it came to not wasting either our time or the intern's time.
Yeah.
And the conversion rate was huge. It was like 75% or something.
Really? I mean, in terms of setting that up, though, because something like that will have to come with contracts, and you'll have to have legal advice and such, like, or you might not if you were starting it out with 500 quid. What happened there? Because the terms and conditions for the whole basically return it if it doesn't work policy must have been quite hard to stipulate if you hadn't invested in a lawyer.
So there were headhunters, a couple of headhunters in the office floor like a communal office floor, that I had sort of chatted to, and I asked very nicely, and they gave me their terms.
Okay.
And I changed the names and stuff, and that's how I got my terms of engagement, basically.
And in terms of when you launched that 75% conversion rate, you grew that, but then you sold it. You sold the business. You know, why did you sell it, and what did you sell it for?
So basically, after the first sort of year or so, I started to not really enjoy recruitment, because I've never really worked in it apart from doing a bit of work experience.
Sure.
And I learned that actually it's just telesales, like intense. You know, if you're not making 60 calls a day, you will not succeed in that lower end recruitment.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and I did what was needed, but I really didn't enjoy it. You know, not that many people enjoy 60 cold calls a day.
No.
It's just a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
So I didn't love it. I was finding it difficult to scale. We got to a revenue of about 120, 130K annualized.
Okay.
After about a year and a half, 2 years. And I had like 1 or 2 team members. And then a guy came on who was basically his family was in recruitment and successful recruitment business, and he was in recruitment previously, and he had the means to basically buy me out. And he had a vision to take it somewhere. I had a vision to leave, and so we ended up making a deal for him to buy me out essentially.
And what was the multiple of that then? If you were doing 120,000 quid revenue,
the valuation, I suppose, in total. I mean, we're talking really small business, right? But I was 22 or 23 or whatever. But the valuation was around 1x revenue, essentially, a bit more than 1x revenue.
Oh, okay.
So I went and got myself a used Porsche Boxster, and yeah, it was great. I had my first taste of, seeing some fruits of the sort of founder labor, albeit on a very small scale.
Yeah. But still, at the age of 22, a good amount of money to be not given necessarily, but to generate an exit with.
Yeah, and I took a salary from the business before that, so I was, all in all, I was pleased that I made that decision.
But then you went over to McDonald's, like you said earlier. You jumped ship from the business. You sold the business with a couple $100,000 in your pocket, and you went to flip burgers. That is something that not many people necessarily do. It wasn't long until you left, granted, but what was the methodology there?
So what happened in between those two things? Basically, my godfather is a really nice guy, he's a banker. He took me for lunch. My office for Recruitment Squared was in the city, and he was in the city. So he took me for lunch, and he said, I've just invested a small ticket into this startup called Coco di Mama, and it's like an Italian sort of quick service place, a bit like an Ep61 or a Prep, but Italian.
Right.
They're now a really decent sized chain, but back then they were just one site. So I've just invested an angel ticket. Come and see the place. Maybe meet the founder. So I was like, all right. Knew nothing about food or restaurants or anything. Took me along. We sat down, got my pasta, started talking to my godfather about what. Because actually, the point of the lunch was basically to try and get advice about what to do with my life. Because I knew I was going to leave recruitment, and I didn't know what to do next.
Okay.
Anyway, this guy comes over, this guy called Daniel Land, who I've kept in touch with. Really nice bloke. He was one of the two founders of Coco di Mama.
Right.
And he was buzzing. And I was sitting there asking him about it. How's it going? What's the job like? And he was like, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. We just got new dishes. We've got the branding done. And he was just buzzing.
Yeah.
And I sort of fed off the energy, and I fed off the buzz of the place.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment when I decided I was going to start a food and restaurant business, essentially.
Okay.
And so that's why I then toiled away for a few weeks to come out with a concept in my head. And the concept that I came up with was what ended up being chosen by, which is basically solving a problem of you can't get a great burger delivered in London. At the time, delivery wasn't a thing.
Yep.
We're talking back in 2012, 2011. And I decided that I'd try and create a business and a solution for people that want a really great burger and really great sides delivered to their house really quickly. Almost like Domino's pizza, but for burgers. That was my vision at the time.
Yeah, I mean, so you're properly visionary, Andy, in terms of you came up with Crowdcube genuinely before Crowdcube.
Didn't do anything with it, though.
Didn't do anything with it. Came up with Deliveroo before Deliveroo, and kind of did something with it. And now you obviously founded this, and you're coming up with the future of essentially eating food that is not meat. And you're a market leader in that world. You are genuinely changing people's perception of food. Is it something you've always wanted to do, is make a change, make a difference, and kind of disrupt an industry?
I think so, yeah. I mean, your characterization, I'd say, is quite generous, but I would say I've always wanted to try and be at the leading edge of whatever it is I'm working in. I'm very competitive, and I want to see what the best is, the best in class, and try and beat it, mostly for the pathetic notion of competitiveness, really.
So you're highly competitive. Is that a streak that you associate with in a positive way, or would you say it's sometimes negative?
I think it's positive. In my case, I would be biased, wouldn't I? Though, but I think it's positive because I tend to be relatively gracious in defeat if we're talking about sport or anything like that, and I don't tend to. Although a company Slack went around because I played one of the guys at squash and lost, and I smashed my racket on the thing.
Oh no! Okay.
Didn't break it. I just tapped it, and it got blown up, so everyone thinks I'm a brat.
Was that the first game you played of squash against him and the last?
I have been injured for the last like 2 months.
And when you started then Chosen Bun, obviously there was an element of you wanting to disrupt an industry, but also wanted to compete and be the best in that world. You obviously worked at McDonald's, I'm assuming, because you wanted to harness and understand and learn a little bit about the F&B world, essentially.
Yeah. So the thinking was, okay, I've got this idea, but I know nothing about operating a fast food restaurant. By then I teamed up with Pete.
Right.
Very early on, as soon as I had the idea, I went off and found a business partner that was Pete.
How do you find a business partner? You can't just go on eBay and buy one.
I know, yeah, it's a bit of a faff.
Yeah.
Basically, because I started Recruitment Square on my own, and I found it quite lonely.
Yeah.
So that's why I committed to having one. And I just did a lot of networking, and I met everybody I could think of, and phoned everybody I could think of, saying, "Look, do you know anyone smart who could be my co-founder in the next business? I've got an idea." And one guy who just ended up being a sort of mutual contact of ours said, "Yeah, I know a guy. He's going to leave his corporate job. He works at Coke, and he's looking for a startup gig." And that was Pete.
Okay.
And it was ended up being a romantic kind of a story, because Pete had 7 days before he had to accept or decline a job offer for a startup.
Right.
So we met every night for 7 nights to try and like build up conviction.
Yeah.
So that he could be in a position to either take the plunge with me or go off and take this startup job. So we met every night, and you know, his girlfriend at the time probably thought that something was up.
Yeah, it's like the honeymoon period, isn't it? When you're dating. I mean, in terms of how you built that relationship over a week, I mean, it's pretty unique. Not a lot of people can go and want to find a business partner and it work.
Yeah, I am incredibly lucky. And obviously he is as well.
Obviously,
but I am incredibly lucky to have found Pete. Yeah, we have entirely complementary skills.
Yes.
And we stay in our lane, because the stuff I'm good at, he's not good at, and vice versa.
And that seems to be the way with the successful co-founders and business partners. I mean, in terms of what you're successful at, or good at, I suppose, what is that, apart from being incredibly competitive and maybe not squash?
So I am a creative person. So for this and for Chosen Bun, I suppose Recruitment Square, I've been the creative lead. So the fun videos we make, the branding on pack, website, social media ideas, PR ideas. I tend to take the lead on creating those, basically. So that's probably where I'm strongest. I also I think it's fair to say, hopefully, that I'm relatively useful when it comes to innovation.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 areas I focus most on in the business, I'd say. You know, me and Pete and I created the first product.
Sure.
We got a crack squad of consultants and research institutes to help us, but we were the people that really pulled it together.
After 1,500 versions.
Yeah, many versions.
Many versions.
Not ones you'd like to taste, probably, either.
But I mean, being creative is quite clear, because looking at what you did with Chosen Bun and how you marketed that, and again how you're marketing this with paddles that say this is not a spanking paddle and whatever else, it's different. It's not aggressive, but it is slightly out there. You sent a burger and chips 112,000 feet into the sky.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that? Was that just create noise?
Yeah, that was a Chosen Bun. We wanted to showcase the packaging, because the X factor that Chosen Bun had was we designed and patented some packaging for the burger that genuinely worked. And it kept it in good shape on the back of a bike whilst it's being delivered. Because we found if we put a burger in a normal box or a polystyrene box, it would sweat and it would fall apart and it would sway. So we created a packaging system to solve all of those problems associated with keeping a burger in a box. So we had a sort of clamshell that went over it that was ventilated 360 degrees, let the steam out. And the clamshell was basically perfectly sized and positioned within the box that we designed, which was also ventilated, so that you could shake it around. We used to play catch with it across the street and then open it and make sure it was in good nick.
Wow.
And so that was how we tested the packaging concept.
Is that still in circulation?
Yeah, they still use it, yeah.
Do they? So
that's why when we sold the business, I would say we got a relatively good price for the business relative to the size of it.
Because of the patent.
I think the packaging system that we created, and perhaps the ancillary details of how
Yeah.
we delivered it, that gave us, I think, some value.
Yeah, and I mean, how long was the business in play for until you decided to jump ship and essentially found what is the pending empire, I suppose, of this?
So it was about 2 years and 9 months we were trading at Chosen Bun before we sold it.
Okay, and you sold it for?
I can't say it officially, actually, because
Okay.
I signed up, as I think almost every exit on Earth is, you do agree not to shout about it. Well, maybe not every exit, but
The majority.
I think
of it.
most probably.
Was it
But it
enough
was
to change your life?
Yes, yeah, it was a multi-million-pound exit, so
Fine.
low millions.
Fine. So it was enough for you to go and sit back and go, actually, I can invest and play and test something, which I suppose is what you did with this. You spent 2 years trying to figure out how to make some food that isn't meat.
Yeah, I mean, what basically it buys you, in my opinion, is financial independence, number one. I always felt like, if my paycheck doesn't come in or the company doesn't do well, I'm gonna have to bloody try and ask my mum to bail me out or whatever. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But I got proper financial independence. Didn't need anybody in the world to give me anything, and it also buys you time, as you say. So I didn't feel anxious about taking stock. I went traveling for a few months.
Where did you go?
I went to it was mostly Asia.
Lovely.
I went to North Korea as well.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
How
did you find that?
It was very interesting, very sad.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by the fact that there's, here we are rocking around in, whatever we rock around in,
the Western
all
world.
nice stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And over there, there's just currently today a throwback from the slightly sad times of, the sort of
The regime,
50s and before.
Yeah, very much so. And in terms of when you came back from traveling and you had this idea for this, if that makes sense, how did you get that to market? Because it took you 2 years and 1,500 different versions of this to get this to market, or at least to get it to a point you were happy with.
Well, before actually started this, we started a climbing business called Social Climbing.
Okay.
The first move after getting back from traveling was Pete and I mapped out what we wanted to do next, and we had each of us decided we wanted to have a low risk investment, a medium to low risk investment, and then a relatively higher risk investment. And the low risk, we both bought a property, so we had our place to live, and then medium risk was social climbing. So we opened what is Leicester's premier indoor climbing centre.
Right.
Leicester, because we found an amazing site in Leicester.
Right.
It's got 45-metre long window to the site, so people waiting for the bus can look inside at night, and it's like this glowing thing where people climbing. It's amazing.
Yes. That's really cool.
And yeah, it was super cool. So the concept was basically like, or is still, a lot of climbing centres. This is the sort of the problem I was trying to solve. We were trying to solve with it. A lot of climbing centres are really made by climbers for climbers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chalk around the place. Some of them aren't that nice to be in if you're like not super into climbing.
Yeah.
If you're just on a date or you're with some mates or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create a climbing centre that was for everybody, including like lots of beginners, people on dates, people who like just weren't into climbing.
Work socials, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's nicely decked out. There are cool sofas, like wooden floors upstairs, the yoga area. Like it's just like it feels more premium.
Yeah.
So that's what we created basically. And that business, we don't now run it. We sort of have two partners that we took on after we sort of created it, and those guys who are now sort of, I'd say, mates. They run the business day to day.
Okay, so you still got the climbing business, and the high risk investment was it this?
Yeah.
What? So this was the high risk one.
Yeah.
Arguably the one that has worked the best.
Yeah, I would say so. But at the time, obviously, you're going up against organizations like Unilever and Nestle and Corn, and so the risk is there in the sense that you are coming to a gunfight with like a tiny penknife.
Before we get back to the podcast, I wanted to ask you, are you a high-growth startup or an ambitious entrepreneur? Our headline sponsors, Capsule Cover, are the perfect insurance specialists if you are geared for high growth. Here at Pinpoint Media, we use Capsule Cover for all our insurance. So if you're an ambitious, high-growth startup, why not reach out to them via capsulecover.com. Coming up in this episode.
The stated mission of the company is to force the world's livestock into retirement.
Do you think that's ever going to happen?
I do, yeah.
How do you make an idea work? Because so many of your ideas are working. Very, very few haven't worked. But you didn't know the industry before you went into it with anything you've done.
And we thought, this is genius.
Did you?
Yeah, because we
I
were like,
think that's mental. That is all to come in this episode of Successes in the Mind. So it kind of took you 2 years to produce the product you were happy with. 1,500 iterations later, you were satisfied. You and Pete were happy to go to market. You raised 900,000 quid. What did you both individually put in to bring it to market?
So before that raise, we both put in 100k between us actually. So it's 50k.
50,000
each.
each. Okay. And what did that allow you to do? What was the burn rate on essentially 100,000 quid?
So essentially, that money went towards paying consultants, paying research institutes. We kept it very lean at the beginning. The burn rate was just that. So it wasn't consistent burn rate, really, because no one was taking salary or we didn't have rents to pay or anything. It was more just, 1 month we'd pay 20 grand to a research institute that we descended upon to do some R&D work for a week or whatever. It just, the cost of, our goal was clear. We wanted prototypes.
Yeah.
And that's what it cost us.
And did you have a limit to those prototypes whereby, Musk had, I think it was 3 or 4 rockets that he could send to space before he ran out of cash, and lo and behold, the last one worked. Did you have, 1,600 prototypes you could have before your cash was gone?
So yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say, to be fair, the 1,500 iterations spanned from the very beginning to after we got funding as well.
Right.
Because we didn't quite launch to market for another 6 months.
Okay. So when you went for funding, you still didn't have a prototype you were happy with?
We had a prototype,
right,
but it wasn't a prototype that was market ready.
Right. Okay.
It was a sort of directional prototype, which, wasn't the right shape, didn't quite have the right flavor. We cobbled it together basically.
Yeah.
We got it was very much like a proof of concept.
It's sort of an MVP, I suppose. But in terms of, because it's a product that you are trying to give the investor an idea as to what it might look or feel or taste like, and you go to them and you go, right, here you go, this is the product. This isn't what it will look like, isn't what it will feel like, and isn't what it will taste like. But could I have nearly £1 million? How did you do that?
I think we managed to flesh out the story and give the investors an insight into the vision that we had, which was basically this, we want to create a brand for meat lovers. This is not going to be for vegans or vegetarians. And that's all now quite common or garden sort of a message. But back then, you didn't really hear it much.
No.
In the market, it was Corn, Linda McCartney, and they were selling really to the legacy purchasers who had been buying vegan and vegetarian for a long time. So just to come out and, as we did, and basically say, look, this is almost exclusively going to be aimed at, great if vegans and vegetarians buy it, but it's going to be aimed at meat lovers. Because that's where the change happened. And
do you know how much of the market was essentially meat lovers that were converting versus who had already converted, like the Linda McCartney crew?
So back then, I would say very, very few. There wasn't much meat reduction going on back in 2018 or whatever. Things have changed so much in sort of 4 or 5 years. So I don't have an exact figure, but I do know that the number of people who are now meat reducing and buying these products has completely changed.
Well, I mean, when we were doing our research last year, 36% of the UK essentially said that eating vegan is now an admirable thing to do. It's not nearly half, but it's getting on for half of the UK. I mean, and you guys have had a massive impact on that. Huge impact on that. And in terms of disrupting a market, how hard is it to raise money when you are disrupting a market? Because it's so untested, so unknown.
So I think what got us through the first raise, that 900k, was basically, I think, the fact that we had just had a successful exit, albeit not earth-shattering, but we had proven that we could take angel investment money and turn it into, I don't know what it was, 15x or something, 16x, so I think we had a track record brewing, which was great. People could see that Pete and I were strong. We trust each other. We're a strong team. We had complementary skills, and also we got across, our vision for the company. And I think that made it, to be honest, quite straightforward, and we ended up having a relatively competitive and oversubscribed kind of pre-seed round. So I would say, you know, we had all the pieces in place to get it done.
Making fake meat or meat that is not meat cannot be that easy. How do you go about producing vegan plant-based meat or food?
With difficulty, it ages a person very quickly. Essentially, you have to break down every single characteristic of meat.
Yeah.
So chicken doesn't just taste like chicken. It's got sulfuric notes. It's got kind of acidy notes.
Yeah.
It's got cheesy notes, sweet notes, umami.
And how do you pull these flavors out? Because it can't just be by ensuring your taste buds and going, this is it.
That is how you do it. It's
Really?
practice, yeah. So I've now had. I would say I'm sort of chief taster at this.
Have you insured your taste buds?
No, I am insured.
Are you?
I think so, yeah.
I hope so.
In the event, if I get hit by a bus, I think the company gets something.
You pay off the investors.
Well, not quite.
Not quite.
I'm not worth that much. Anyway, we digress.
we do. Taste buds.
So yeah, it's now been 3+ years of practice of tasting something with a different mindset. So you taste it and you just try and break it down in your mind. And like anything, I think the potential of our taste buds is much greater than what we exercise day to day. So if you really try and train yourself, as I now have, to sort of decode the flavor of something in more detail than is conventional, you really can discern quite a lot.
Wow.
So like nowadays, I wouldn't say I'm any sort of professional at it, but certainly pushing that way. And nowadays, if I taste a bit of plant-based burger, I really am able to discern the irony notes in it. Quite a lot of sort of caramelly sweetness to beef burger or a plant-based beef burger, and then any other notes. Yeah, so it's essential to break everything down so that you can rebuild again, because you can't build something complicated without knowing what all the constituent parts are.
A bit like building a business, essentially.
Yeah, or just building anything that has lots and lots of parts, like building a house. You need to know what a sink is and what a kitchen counter is. To put together a house. You can't just go house, kitchen. Like, you need to know like what all the different building blocks are.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, in terms of educating and training yourself on that, did you, before you founded this, were you solely a vegan or were you a meat eater?
No, I was a meat eater.
Did you convert?
I converted well before founding this, actually.
Okay.
So it was quite shortly after we sold Chosen Bun.
Right.
It was actually unrelated. I didn't. A lot of people think that I gave up animal products because of the business and because I thought it was appropriate. Actually, I saw a video of some chicks being crushed.
Yeah.
Because in the egg industry, they don't need male chicks, so they just crush them all or gas them all and stuff. And chicks are so sweet.
Incredibly.
I mean, they're like comically sweet creatures.
Yeah.
And so I saw this video and it really affected me.
Yeah.
And from that day, I haven't had any
Really?
meat or anything. Yeah.
And that was what stemmed this business, or what made you think of it?
Happy coincidence. What made us think of the business?
Yeah.
I think it was a quite unromantic sort of process of elimination, where we were like, okay, what do we do? Pete and I looked at all kinds of businesses to start. We looked at packaging people's prescriptions, daily and weekly prescriptions in packs and sending it out. We looked at starting a barber's chain because we thought that hadn't really been consolidated, that industry. We looked at starting sort of next generation car servicing garages.
Okay.
Wanted to start a car brand. I'm a big petrol head, so it was like it's not very on brand, but I love cars. And so a lot of the ideas were automotive.
Yeah.
And then we looked at all kinds of stuff, and eventually we decided that food was where we were happiest and where we were most excited. And then we suddenly started looking around, sniffing around at what was on shelves. And that's when, going back to the thing I said at the beginning, we realized that there was no brand that really spoke to us as meat lovers.
Yeah.
And no suite of products as well that really we were excited by. So we felt like there was an opportunity to try and do it better, basically.
And you are doing it brilliantly. And in terms of what sets you apart to the other competitors out there, we've already alluded to a few, Linda McCartney and co. Why are you different?
I think two things predominantly. The first one is our strength in technical innovation. we lean very, very hard into the science. The first thing I did before I did anything else in this business was get on Google Scholar and just look up academic work around plant proteins, what has and hasn't been done. And so I've tried to, and so has Pete, tried to maintain that ethos of like, let's fixate over the science. And so I'd say that the first thing that sets us apart is basically our technical resourcefulness, creativity, and know-how as a business. We're really good at solving technical challenges in plant-based food. Like, for instance, you mentioned our sausages off camera. You said you've enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Why did you enjoy them? What leads you to enjoy them? And I would say the succulence of those sausages, the extreme likeness the flavor has to pork.
Texture as well.
The texture.
I mean, cutting it is exactly.
Yeah, and all of those characteristics are individual big technical challenges, succulents especially.
Yeah.
And we worked really hard on that. We created and patented this thing called Fat 2.0. It's basically like our plant-based version of animal fat.
Right.
And that's in the sausages you had. It's made of olive oil predominantly.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's basically like, it's white, it's squishy.
Yeah.
And so it sort of gives you that explosion of succulence when you eat it.
Okay. And is that in conjunction with your Willy Wonka Centre that you founded and you've got? Is that where you develop these ideas?
Yeah, exactly. So we're creating this R&D centre, which we're nicknaming the Animal Retirement Home, because basically the stated mission of the company is to force the world's livestock into retirement.
Do you think that's ever going to happen?
I do, yeah. I do think so.
In the next 30 years?
Could be slightly longer.
Could be slightly longer.
Yeah, probably will be slightly longer, especially when you consider that the UK is in a slightly different place in its development of plant-based adoption. But yeah, I do think one day, I think it will seem, if you really go zoom out a bit and you go sort of 100 years, 200 years, I think it will seem quite barbaric that we used to do what we do with animals, to be honest.
I tend to agree with that, but it has to be generations away, surely.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And in terms of the Willy Wonka Centre then, I mean, where is that? How are you harnessing people's ideas and innovation to disrupt and come up with new product? Because that is expensive.
Yeah, so we're building it at the moment. It's going to be ready towards the end of this year.
Physical building that you're doing?
Yes, it's a big building actually. It's in Chiswick, and it used to be part of the Fuller's Brewery.
Okay.
It's a great big industrial site in West London.
Yeah, I know it.
And they let this building go a few years ago. So we've taken a big standalone building and 2 floors. There's going to be a state-of-the-art lab, a big pilot plant, which has basically got like miniature versions of large industrial kit that we use. And it's got a commercial kitchen, so to simulate what the restaurant customers of ours will do. And it's got some office space. And the coolest thing about it is when I say it's going to be themed like an animal retirement home, like take that super seriously and literally. Like you won't believe the level of theme that this place will have. Like basically the pilot area is this great big area on the ground floor with lots of stainless steel kit in it.
Right.
You know, proper like serious, catering equipment and food production equipment.
Yes.
But it's a ballroom. It's got chandeliers in it. It's got like white and black checked floor.
Oh, okay.
So it's heavily themed.
Yeah.
And the idea is, it brings the mission to life. It excites the people that work there, and will hopefully excite people that visit there as well.
And in terms of who came up with that idea, was that you that went, right, let's do the animal retirement home? Like everything else that's happened, you've come up with this idea and you've either brought it to market or it hasn't worked.
Well, that was me, yeah. But I would definitely say that obviously the wider team are, we all collaborate together to come up with lots of ideas.
But how do you make an idea work? Because so many of your ideas are working. Very, very few haven't worked. But you didn't know the industry before you went into it with anything that you've done. Climbing, you don't know. Recruitment, you barely knew. Food, you didn't really understand. But it's all kind of worked.
Yeah. Well, I haven't told you about Trongs.
You haven't?
Trongs didn't work.
Trongs didn't? What was that then?
And gyms as well.
You went into gyms?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm the proud owner of 2 Snap Fitness licenses.
Okay.
Which cost us tens of thousands of pounds. Because I woke up one day, I was like, Pete, we've got to open gym. Do you remember when all the gyms were opening everywhere?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it was like 5 years ago.
My auntie's got a gym chain, and I remember it very, very well, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So around that time, I was like, Pete, we've got to do gyms. Like, gyms going to be everywhere. These franchises change the game. I was like, do we have to? Like, yeah. So I persuaded Pete to cough out tens of thousands of pounds, and I did as well. and we bought 2 licenses to open 2 gyms.
Right.
We thought one wouldn't be enough. We'll get 2.
Yeah, you got to get to double it up. Doubles
Can't
or quits.
start with 1. And so we basically got the licenses, started looking for property, and then it just became quite clear as we started to get more and more into the industry that like too many of them were opening.
Right. Too licenses.
And so we were like, I was like, Pete, I'm really sorry, but I don't think this is a good idea anymore. And he was like,
And you were in already. You'd put the cash
yeah,
down.
we can't get it back.
No, you can't get it
We
back.
still haven't. So that was it.
Right.
So
Okay.
we lost that money.
Can you not resell them?
I don't think so.
I don't even know if they're around anymore, are they?
They are, I think.
Snap gyms?
I think they are, yeah.
Are they? I can't see.
I don't know how well they're doing, but they are around. We also tried Trongs.
Okay.
So Trongs were. I should really give good airtime to the failures. To make
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, I'm like doing the Insta life of like.
This.
Yeah.
Insta life, exactly.
It's like the equivalent, isn't it? Just always being on a beach on Instagram.
Yeah, Dubai somewhere.
Basically, Trongs. So we saw. I don't know where we saw it, but this American based invention. These two really nice guys have come out with. It was to eat messy foods with. So you held it like that. It was a plastic contraption, disposable as well, which is incredibly unfashionable now.
Hugely.
And went on your hands. You pick them up, and you basically pick up your food with them.
Bit like Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, and you eat your whatever it was, your ribs or corn on the cob. Put it down. Put your Trongs on the plate. Talk away, do whatever.
Yeah.
Pick it up again, and we thought this is genius.
Did you?
Yeah, because we
I
were
like
like,
that's mental.
we thought it was genius because you never need. They were like 30p each or whatever per pair. You never need to get your hands dirty ever again when you eat.
Yeah,
Because it's genius. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Stuff that you can't use a knife and fork for easily.
It's like all 5 fingers.
No, only 3.
Only the 3.
Yeah, 2 up here, 1 down their thumb.
That's.
And we were like, this is the best. This will make us billionaires.
Yeah.
And
Did it?
No.
No.
We got them made. We got molds made for 20 grand. We got branding. We got this. We got that. And
Was this with the fun money that when you sold your previous
Yeah,
business, you went, right, let's.
we didn't think it was fun. We thought it was very serious.
Well, of
We thought
course.
Trongs were going to take over the world.
Trongs.
Trongs?
Trongs.
Trongs, yeah.
It's even a remarkable name.
We didn't name it.
No.
But anyway, so we did a deal with these Americans to like have the license for Europe, and which we paid for,
Of course.
and it completely flopped, and no one wanted to buy Trongs, and we couldn't believe it at first, and then we slowly realised that we were the stupid ones, not them.
Right. How quickly did it flop though? Was it one of those businesses that failed really, really fast?
It was about probably 6 months.
Okay, so it's still, it was quick, but it was a bit of a bind.
We weren't full time.
Mm-hmm.
We sort of started off thinking we'd be full time.
Yeah.
And then once we got like 10 failures, people saying no way, then it was like, okay, maybe we'll go part time.
Yeah.
It'll work. We'll go part time. And then it just didn't work.
Because, I mean, in terms of putting the time into the business and going part time, full time, whatever it might be, you can't necessarily make a business work if you're not in it 100% of the time. But then removing yourself slightly and looking at it from the outside is a good thing, right? In terms of the businesses that you have been in full time, are those the ones that have actually worked?
Yeah. If I've been
Predominantly.
So Recruitment Square, Chosen Bun, Social Climbing, I'm not in full time.
No, true.
I barely have too much to do with the day to day. And obviously this we're more than full time.
Yeah, 100%.
I totally agree with your assertion. You do need to be full time to make a business, and that's the advice that I give earlier stage founders who I sometimes speak to. Because it always slightly annoys me when people say that they're doing this, they're doing that, and they'll do a bit of a startup. And so you are right. Yeah,
they've got a group by the age of 19 or something like that. But in terms of when you're investing, because do you invest as well into outside businesses or just your own?
No, I haven't actually.
Is it something you'd ever look at doing?
Maybe in the future, yeah. I just I don't know. I feel like there's enough risk in my life with like my income and my prospects are all sort of configured around like startups basically. I've got my climbing center, I've got this, so I feel like there's already enough risk. So the capital I have, I tend to put into my living, my property, or cars. Because I love cars. So.
I mean, I suppose in terms of then when you're scaling, growing, investing, and getting to the point of a proper scale up, what do you, from a foundational point of view, need to have in place to go to an investor like you've done and go, right, mate, I want £1 million, I want 10 million, 20 million, whatever it might be. What do you need to have in place as a startup entrepreneur?
Right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning through to sort of Series A, onwards.
I think right at the beginning, you need to probably show resourcefulness and that you've done a lot with a little. I think that's quite important. I think most investors really want to see that.
Yeah.
Because that's what separates you probably from the bad founders. Is the good founders are getting a lot done and really hustling with not much resource. A really well thought through plan. I personally think, call me old fashioned, but I personally think a business plan or a deck that is under 50 pages is not worth delivering.
Really?
Yeah, I really think everyone. I know that's unfashionable. That makes me a bit of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
But if I was an angel, I want to see that those guys or girls have thought of flipping everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Put 100% of everything on there.
Yeah. I want. So in our case, we do. We deliver, really comprehensive plans for starters.
How many pages is your deck?
Our current deck for this round is I don't know. It's around 50.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay. Let's get you going for 10 million roughly this time.
Yeah.
Wow.
But to be fair, if it is slightly shorter than that, if it's 45 or something, it's because it's going on crowdfunding.
Right, and they've got a
and so that's a slightly different audience because
Yeah.
we're talking about sort of investors, institutional investors.
yeah.
You can sort of put people off if you're too long.
Absolutely.
But I was talking more about if people are going to professional investors.
To VCs, for instance, and such like. And that's really, and in terms of what the right investor to go to is, why are you going seeders or why are you going to crowdfunding now rather than going to a VC and saying, right, can I just have £10 million, please, thank you very much?
Well, we're doing both.
Right.
We are going to institutional investors for this round. But I personally love crowdfunding. And I think we're fortunately positioned as, a relatively popular consumer brand, growing consumer brand with decent awareness. So I think that puts us in a really good place for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
The crowd give you stuff that institutional investors can't give you. So they give you en masse advocacy.
Yeah.
Where you've got people who go around being ambassadors for your company by the thousand.
Oh yeah.
And also, VCs come with agendas quite fairly because they are playing with other people's money, frankly. So they need to have a clear agenda. Whereas private individual investors, they don't have the same sort of agenda, and therefore they're not as challenging and vocal on your cap table as investors, as institutional investors.
Is it more time consuming when you're having to go through a crowdfund because you have to answer so many more questions and it's it's a relatively smaller amount of money that these individuals are putting in?
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, frankly. Like, yes, it takes time, but then so does institutional raising.
Yeah.
That always takes a lot of time. And actually, especially at the stage we're at now, where we're sort of at growth stage rather than seed or Series A, like now the due diligence of our investors is significant. So it kind of almost offsets the hassle that you describe of dealing with lots of individual investors.
But to me, you seem like quite a risk-free business now, because you did what, 13 million quid in your first year or so. 20 million is the forecast for this year.
Yeah, no, not quite. We did 5.5 million year one, 11.8 million year two.
Okay.
And now we're in our third year where we're forecasting around 20 million.
Yeah. Okay. So not a million miles off, but not a mistake in terms of that. But in terms of the 20 million in year three, that's still quite good growth. A lot of people would be happy with that.
Yeah, I think it's firstly that's forecast. So we hope we get to that. But yeah, no, the business has been successfully growing. But as with anything, you don't have a straight line like that.
No,
it's up and down.
100%.
So it's just a case of like one thing that's quite challenging as the team gets bigger as well is like when you have those couple of months where things are a bit flat or you get a couple of losses you weren't expecting or whatever. Just making sure that you don't bring the team down because they hit you quite hard personally as a founder.
Yeah.
And then almost like I'm not very good at moderating behavior, I would say.
You're quite brash sometimes.
Perhaps a bit.
Sporadic.
Yeah, like I don't have enough of a filter, which I'm sure a lot of people would say, but I definitely don't. And so for me, I'm trying to learn over time how to moderate more with the team because not be misleading or anything, but like if I'm taking something a bit personally into heart about a couple of months toughness, I don't want them to then bring the team down. It's a big challenge I found actually that I'm not quite positive, inspirational enough, and that's something I need to really work on.
That's really interesting. And in terms of how you do moderate your behaviour almost, like when you smashed your racket up when you were playing squash because you lost. Something I do when I'm playing cricket, I throw my cricket bat because it's really annoying when you get out on the first ball. But how do you moderate? How do you manage? And how do you make sure that you don't A, offend somebody, but B, actually overreact?
I think you just take a breath, basically.
Is it as simple as that, though?
Yeah, like if you're a vaguely rational person, which I hope I am, if you give yourself a bit more time when there's a potential reaction afoot,
Yeah.
I think you end up doing the right thing and being level-headed about it. So nowadays, if I'm in a meeting or there's a contentious issue being discussed, and I'm around the team, I don't tend to give Pete the same luxury.
No.
But when I'm around the team or investors or whatever, I do now, something I never used to do. I do just answer slower. It takes me like a second or two longer than it would have done before. And during that time, I think that's me moderating, and that's me trying to be really thoughtful and level-headed about it.
That's really interesting.
And it really, for me, it changes the game.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of an example from when you did overreact slightly, or you were too quick, you didn't have that 1 or 2 seconds worth of consolidation and an acceptance that actually this is the answer you're going to give. Have you got an example of that when you frankly should have just taken some time out?
I've got a lot of those.
Go on.
Just loads. Like we once went to this investor at the beginning, who was introduced to me through another investor, a current investor in the business.
Sure.
So someone I wanted to impress and give a good impression to, and I was just so impulsive because I didn't really get on with this guy. I thought he was a bit of a knob.
Yeah.
And I thought he was slightly up himself, and he was a very rich guy, but still, and I felt he was a bit arrogant. And so basically, I obviously didn't hide my, I didn't moderate properly. And I got home, I saw an email, and I thought, well, that's weird, because you normally only see a quick email, things go well.
Yes.
So I thought it didn't go that well. So I looked at it, and it was this long thing about like, I recommend you do some mirror work. So he was like, not even being sarcastic. He was like, you need to sit in front of a mirror and like look at yourself, like faces you make.
Wow.
And he said every time I said something, you would start deeply frowning. And I felt that you were very rude when I was making suggestions about the business, and all this stuff. So then that got back to the bloke that had introduced us, and it was just quite a bad look.
Wow.
And so stuff like that's happened a lot. I've argued with a lot of investors. I had a VC call a few days ago, and the guy who was, I feel bad if the person watches it, he went to medical school, and he decided he didn't want to be a doctor and went into VC, and he was 3 months into VC, and this person he was a very nice bloke. He was trying to, I suppose, examine the validity and the promise of our business from that position. And I have been, toiling away at startups for the last 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I found it difficult to contain my disdain for the situation, not him personally.
Yeah.
But I just found it absurd.
Yeah, the 3 months versus the 15 years of graph.
Yeah, medical school, I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hide how little I got it.
Right. And so the call ended badly.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. So
his words were, "Thank you for the spicy conversation."
Really?
And I was like, "Sorry, thanks, sorry." But
has he
joke's
emailed
on
you
me
back?
because we're not going to get investment from there.
Yeah, well, exactly. But arguably, you accept that you realise that you could have dealt with it differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a bit hard to have that conversation. But in terms of if you were to have the conversation again, what would you do differently? What would you say to somebody that was going for investment that actually thought, "Bugger you"?
I'd just toe the line.
I know more than you.
I'd just toe the line and I'd not be a jumped up idiot about it. Would I though? I say that, but would I? Would I be exactly the same? I'd probably be exactly the same. If the business was on its last legs,
yes,
and life depended on it, then I suppose I'd have no choice. But
you're in a position where you can have those conversations because you know that there are other people out there that will invest in this, and actually you want them to believe in it as much as you do. And maybe that wasn't the right person for the brand.
Yeah, and there's a serious reason why you might not want to do something like that as well. Because what I've learned over time actually is that these investments, not just somebody lobbing a check in, they're like marriages.
Yeah.
And, do we want to be married to that person? Might have been the representative who sits on our board or who, gives us proper direction. you don't want to necessarily sign up to that for life when you don't have enough confidence in the advisor you're signing up with.
So at what point would you just take the cash then? If you were starting a business and someone went, here's 100,000 quid to get it off the ground, and you didn't believe in them as an individual for whatever reason, is it right or wrong to take the money?
Look, that's a different matter, because if somebody's getting started, it's then a bit life or death, isn't it? So I would recommend to earlier stage founders, just unless they're like arms dealers, or they're immoral people, take the money. Yeah, a bit like what Bob Geldof said in Live Aid, where he said, "Give us your fucking money." That's exactly what he said. But in terms of where we can help invest, join you on your journey as a customer, but also as an investor, if indeed the crowdfund is open at the point that this airs, where can we go? What can we do? And how can we find this? So we're going on Seedrs for the crowdfunding portion. So we're going live on Seedrs privately in the next couple of days, and then we're going to go publicly live in about a week. So
what's the duration of that campaign then?
Don't know, because it depends on how quickly we hopefully hit, maybe exceed our target. And then, last round we did on Seedrs in 2020, we raised like 3 million quid in about 15 hours or something. It was the quickest one they'd had at the time. I think it still is maybe. And so we had to stop after about a day. So, who knows? This time our target's going to be bigger.
10 million, yeah.
It won't be 10 million actually. 10 million is the round size.
Fine.
So the target on Seedrs would be probably 4 million.
Okay.
So yeah, it depends.
And you have to, I think, from memory, when we've used Seedrs or been through Seedrs with other things, you have to raise it all or you don't get any of it.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And have you ever been in a position with Seedrs where you've not raised any of it?
No, because we've only done it once before.
You've only done
and
it
it was
before.
Successful for us. So,
but you can overfund, can't you? And you get the rest of the money.
Yeah. So a trick for founders with Seedrs is make sure that your target is manageable.
Yes.
And you expect to hit it.
And how did you come up with that 4 million split then, with the rest going to VCs?
So we basically we've tried to gauge the demand that we've had in the pre-reg. So the pre-reg phase is basically like it's been open to people to sign up to it,
right?
And to basically commit to like, when the round goes live, I will invest X. And in our case, we've had the second biggest pre-registration in Seedrs history of 10, 15 years.
Wow.
So the first biggest was Revolut.
Okay.
Normally they got like 30,000 signatures.
Okay.
We've had 14,000 roughly.
Wow.
And so the interest has been really great. So from that we can determine that actually you can go to 4 million to a punchy target.
Yeah.
A degree of that has been committed already.
Yeah.
So
is there a minimum that people have to put in?
I think it's quite low. I think it might be like 50 quid or something.
Wow. Okay.
Could even be lower than that. I think.
So it's literally a couple of packs of bacon. That is it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully more than a couple.
Yeah. And in terms of where I can buy the product, then, if I wanted to go and buy this, for instance, when can I go to buy it? So
this product is sold in pretty much all major supermarkets in the UK. So Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's, Waitrose, Ocado, all of that lot. And so we're also sold in a bunch of restaurant chains. So chains like Cafe Nero, Prezzo, Ask, Chilango, Honest Burger. We tend to be on the menu, so you'll see this TM isn't bacon.
Yeah.
So you can recognize us.
And that's amazing for a brand to be on there, because you don't get that with sausages or burgers or anything like that. You've actually got a product that they're marking on the menu as this.
Yeah, it's a great validation for us.
100%.
So yeah, really grateful that partners want to promote the brand.
Yeah.
It really helps with brand awareness. It helps with driving trial in retail as well.
Yeah, no, very much so. And I genuinely think it's brilliant. It is brilliant. It tastes brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Andy. This has been fun.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Cheers, Steve. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not listen to a few more and click subscribe? This podcast was produced by Pinpoint Media, and I'm Oliver Bruce. I hope we can speak again soon. Take care.